Hey, Soul Tribe. I'm KamalaDevi, and I want to talk to you about self-love. I know you're probably thinking, like, oh no, not another video about self-love. And yet you can't, it bears repeating. You can't have enough redundancy about the importance of this very foundational spiritual teaching, because at the root of all spiritual practice is self-love. There's, no love outside of the self. And as you may know, I'm a sex and relationship coach, and I currently am writing a book on closing the gap between the theory of open relating and the practice. And it doesn't matter if you have like one deep monogamous beloved, or if you're single, or if you have, a whole intimate network. At the root of all relationships is your relationship to self. And so I know you're nodding your head going, I know all this, I've heard it. I love myself. But the question is, what are your self-love systems? Because it may be that on one day you wake up and you're feeling like, oh, okay, I have high self-esteem. I feel good about myself. Like my finances are good. My job is good. I'm good. But then on another day when circumstances shift, you might feel low self-esteem, or like somebody leaves you, or, oh, I didn't get invited to that thing, or I didn't get hired for that job. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's because I did this or that, or we can be really hard on ourselves. Now, what a self-love system does is it like waters, it keeps your self-love, raising high to like a sufficiency level. So like a sprinkler system, you want to water your self-love with different practices. And so at the base level, of course, there's like self-care, like sleep and eat and supplements and exercise, and like just really making sure that you're at your best kind of biochemically. Beyond that, when you're in a relationship, you might have like, hey, we've got date night, or we've got special times that we call in text and say, I love you. And there's certain systems that start to get set up. And you want to ask yourself, like, what's my self-love system? What are the things that I do, and when do I do them to really, recharge my own battery? And it's a very powerful practice to put oneself first. And I want to name that there's an illusion, right? Like when people really go down the self-love like path, they can get blinded to the need for social support and for your social circles, and think, oh, I can take care of all my own needs through my prayer, through my meditation on my own. But we're social animals. Like we're deeply wired to surround ourselves with tribe and community. And without that, it's actually hard to keep your self-love levels high. Like being in reflections of people who are like you, who celebrate and appreciate you, like that's part of, the way to raise your love levels is by looking into those mirrors. So I want to point out that there's a deep dialectic between self-love and, social support. And that there are times when you're like, hey, I'm feeling low self-esteem, and the best thing to do is be surrounded by people that love me. But to not come from, I need you, from my low self-esteem space. Instead, it's like, how do I recharge my battery, come from sufficiency, bring my fullness to community? Because in community, we're going to see, the mirror can start to reflect back what you don't like as well. So you want to come from fullness, and then you'll like what you see. And in order to really be like to get support, because a lot of people are like, I can't do this myself, I need my community support. This community only supports people who help themselves. And, if you're the kind of person that's helping others, if you're the kind of person that knows service and can contribute, then people line up and rush to show up and serve you and to contribute to you too. It's a give and a take. And so it's important to like be in the fullness as you show up to support others. You know, you will be supported. But I did want to point out that dialectic, because too often people get into this like lens of whether it's autonomy or sovereignty, and they're like missing out on all of the magic and the synergy of you know, having a support system to actually help raise your love levels. So self-love's, you know, it's a system, it's a practice, and it, you know, gets amplified by others. And you know what, this full moon, one of the things that you can do, I know I'll be doing, is tuning in to the deeper levels of true self. Because I tend to feel there's a thin self-love that is almost like feeding the identity. And then at the depth structures of who we are, it's, you know, the true self coming from your core, you know, like really being in love. It's like a prayer meditation in the depth of, you know, the God realized, you know, self that is a God goddess, and allowing the divine to come through you as you do your high ceremony practices, such as, you know, full moon ceremony, or and we know we feel it on our birthdays, we feel it on the high holidays, but it's just a really unique opportunity to raise our vibration, to drop the veil, to see the truth of who we are, and to love that. And then as we come into the daily practices, the ordinary reality of self-love, to be nourished from that source and not from the identity or ego or constructing more of a false self that you want to just elevate. So it is powerful to have a system of dropping into the true self as much as possible, to draw from that in your daily practices. So I hope this inspires you. I look forward to meeting you in the ethers as we do these practices, and happy to communicate in comments, and yeah, sending you just like deepest blessings this full moon.